Why Icebox? Well, Fade is still working her way into the meta, so it may be too early to tell how popular she'll be on this map, but from what I've seen and discovered myself, she'll do just fine. Her haunt gets a lot of use here because of the amount of elevated areas near where enemies will be playing. A lot of the map is close quarters, so the range doesn't limit haunt's effectiveness that much. With Prowlers, you can clear Icebox's many tight angles an enemy may be positioned in. C's can be great for holding players in nest on A and B due to the radius, and can also be used for post plants fairly easily. Nightfall is good in general, so not much to say there. I promise by the end of this video, you'll have the tools to become the most deadly Fade on Icebox. But I can't do all the work on my own, of course. What's that old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink? Yeah, I think that applies here. If this video does help you out, dropping a like is always appreciated. Okay, enough intro, let's get into it. So before we start, I have a little pro tip for you. Before using Fade, I would consider playing with your minimap fixed instead of rotate. Why is that? I guess the best way is to just show you. Having your minimap on rotate can be a lot more jarring and difficult to follow your Prowler, especially in small areas with a lot of angles to clear. A good example of this is Maze. This ultimately comes down to preference, and if you're already on fixed minimap, then good for you. I'm not, and now I have to decipher the minimap like I'm back in Calc 1 freshman year of college. Didn't go well. You also want your minimap to be the max size of 1.2 to clearly see the Prowler in tight spaces. You can zoom the minimap to max, but if it cuts off too much of the map, just lower it to 0.95. We'll start with each ability one by one and then bring it all together in the end, where I'll show you how a typical round may be played out on attack and defense. Haunt gets a lot of great high ground spots on Icebox that you need to take advantage of to get the most info and be a good initiator. Now I do show some lineups I discovered either from Twitter or Reddit, so I'll credit those guys in the description if you want to check out the rest of their lineups for this map. For attack A pipes, start off by lining yourself up with the thin dark line to the right of this window. Look up towards the ceiling until your crosshair is over the corner of the raised tiles. This will see a large portion of A's site, including close left and right, part of nest, maze, and rafters. Just be aware if an enemy is close to a wall, they can avoid being seen. If you want more info behind screens, hop up onto pipes and move close to but not touching the pipe. Line up the pipe with the white wall and aim at the tip of the small dark triangle and throw. I'm not going to list every spot this hits, but just know it's everything except default plant and backside box. This one has the most potential for tags. For some attacking B examples, stand against yellow and make sure you can see the beer bottle on the rail. Aim at the bottom and jump throw. This will see into nest, front and back sight, a little into B hall and back of B. This just won't get the lower and right side of tube. Are we still calling it tube? I don't know. To clear back yellow, put yourself in the corner here and aim at the intersection of the container and box in front of you. Jump throw and you'll land on the edge of the container. This can also see top and bottom nest on site and extends to the back areas of site. In mid before the round begins, you can position yourself at this intersection next to the yellow arrow. Aim between the top circle antenna and the yellow container. Run and jump throw. This will reveal most of boiler, mid pallet, kitchen, and orange. This is pretty good for getting info early in mid. For this next one, back into the wall and line up your crosshair with the intersecting lines. Run forward, and when you see this metal gap, jump throw. Your jump will actually be cut short due to the door frame, so make sure to throw immediately after jumping for this to work. It could take some practice, but the results speak for themselves. This hits most of green and yellow. Moving over to defense, we'll start with another pipe lineup. This time, move into the front corner of mini truck and look up at the tile that's corner is connected to the metal pipe. Aim in the middle and throw. This will hit spawn, around nest and pipe, and orb. For a retake haunt on A, move into the corner of screens here. Aim at the intersection of the lower side of this light and the top edge of screens. Jump throw for one that lands in the top gap. This one takes a bit more practice because if you throw too early or too late, it could miss. It hits all of sight besides the back and the other side of maze. If you're rotating or playing snowman and you're smoked off, you can throw this one. Push against the wall until the side of nest meets the antenna. Now move your crosshair in the imaginary cross between top of antenna and the side piece. Run and throw quickly to land a haunt for yellow and green. Before the round starts, stand on the left of boiler. Move into the wall and aim at the corner here. Look at the crate where the numbers are. From there, move straight up until your crosshair is the same height as the antenna. Run and jump throw off of boiler. The key here is to try and time your throw with the audio of your first footstep. This hits mid blue and green so you know exactly where the attackers are early round. Now we'll talk about some Prowler routes starting over on A attack. The goal of your Prowlers here is to try and get info on an enemy in as many angles as you can. The best spots are behind pipe or pushed up to 410. This is a great way to clear the site with both your Haunt and Prowler. More on that later. On B, there is what seems to be a bug with Prowler. When you try to move under the metal container, it just kinda gets stuck. I'm assuming this is unintentional, but I guess we'll see in the next patch. At the start of the round in mid, you can send your Prowler pretty far up the tube. Make sure to practice this one because if you make it up the tube, it could target an enemy playing close to the end. If you don't line of sight the enemy with your Prowler, you won't get that info. There are a lot of options here for a defensive Prowler that you can use early round or for retake. Using one early either for info or combined with your Haunt can provide your team with useful info. Depending on your position on site and the situation, use any of these Prowlers to optimize your use of them and see as many angles as possible before it runs out. Again, it's usually best to use Prowlers in conjunction with marked enemies, but they are also a good info gathering tool without the trails. At the start of the round on B, you can get early info on a B push by moving your Prowler down green and either into garage or straight down the lane. Fall back to site if you suspect a push. If you're playing a safer position, Prowler from site and make sure to check close left, back yellow, and cubby since these are common enemy positions. If you're holding mid for your team and they call a hit on A or B, you can send out this Prowler while you rotate to check one more time if the enemy is lurking mid. Now we'll look at some C spots. Let's talk about C's mechanics here real quick because I think there's a few things that are worth mentioning. I actually went over how C's works in my last video, so if you want to check that out after this one, you can click in the top right corner. C's only works if an enemy is in line of sight of the center orb and within the height range. C's does not work if an enemy is too far below the circle. However, its range above the circle far exceeds what you would expect. It actually surprised me with how far it can reach. The max distance seems to be about 10 meters from the center of the orb. The orb also acts similar to an astrogravity well, only it prevents you from leaving the circle. This mechanic can technically be used to pull defenders off of the bomb during a defuse. However, a lot of variables need to align for this to work, and it's really not worth your time learning lineups since it heavily depends on the bomb placement and enemy defuse positioning. To keep it simple, make sure the radius of C's completely covers the spike. You can use the deafen mechanic to peek or reposition, or the decay to give you the upper hand. If you have a duo, consider using Raise Nade or other damage dealing abilities combined with C's. On A attack, you can either stand on pipe to hit back of gen and default, or on the low ground behind pipe. When on pipe, aim at this corner, and as long as you're not going too far left or right to this platform, the orb should always land in a position that reaches back gen. When on the ground, aim at one of the middle two pipes against the wall and jump throw to gen. If an enemy is there, you will see the tether when you move up to A. For post plant, you can sit in the nest and either throw C's to the right of 410 or aim at the right of nest window and bank it off the wall. If you're confident an enemy is tethered, you can use the zip line to get to the diffuser quickly and they will not hear the sound that you make. To hit back of yellow, move into the corner by green. Aim at the top of the boxes and a little to the left. Run and jump throw and you'll hit all of back yellow. Heading on over to defense now. You can also use C's as an anti-plant. It won't stop them from planting, but it's a good opportunity for your teammates to pick off the diffuser by peeking them or using damage dealing abilities. Move into this corner and line up your crosshair with the L shape here. Jump throw for a perfect default C's. On B, we can do a quick and dirty lineup that uses these boxes. Run throw off the center of the stack and you'll hit anyone close left. If a teammate smokes you off, you can use the deafen from C's to deny them the audio cue from diffusing. Now they will be forced to peek you or run through the smoke right into your lap. Let's talk about some Nightfall spots. On A attack, you can ult from 2 or 3 positions. The first one here hits almost all of sight except the far right corner, although most enemies won't be here unless it's chamber or jet to get away quickly. This could also force defenders into this position if they don't want to get hit by the ult. Another spot is behind nest and going straight into sight. This covers everything except screens. The last spot can be towards screens if you already cleared gen. At B, we can throw an ult diagonally that hits the large majority of sight, including B hall. You can ult further up green, and that position could be used for a post-plant situation, if you prefer to save your ult for that. Just like Breach's ult, the ult positions can be a bit dynamic depending on last known enemy positions. For example, if you're retaking A site and you know that no one is playing in the far left corner due to your Haunt or Sova dart, you can position your ult further to the right right, so now it also covers the short side of belt, which is a common post plant position for attackers. And finally, over towards B, we can throw this ult from orange that hits the hot zones where attackers typically play during post plant. So now let's put it all together. Now that we have gone over a lot of lineups, Prowler routes, C spots, and Nightfalls, it's time to put it all together, starting with an example on attack. Heading into A, we can start with an info gathering Prowler and head to our Haunt lineup for pipe. As your team moves in ahead of you, the Haunt will do its job, and then you can use your second Prowler. If an enemy is spotted by the Haunt, use that Prowler on the trail that's made if possible. Plant the bomb and use that C's lineup for post plant. You can move sneakily through maze and surprise the deafened diffuser from the other side. When making a mid play, start out with your Haunt for mid. You can either Prowler to the marked enemy or through tube. If you move up mid to orange, you can use a second Prowler to clear back sight towards Snowman. If you save the Prowler, don't forget that it can be a great post plant tool as well. The enemy will be forced off the bomb to shoot it, or you can swing with the Prowler while the enemy shoots it to get an easy pick. You also have your C's lineup as well. For B, we can start in garage to take as much space as possible, and then Prowler down green to clear the angles for your team. Move towards the box and throw your Haunt lineup for back yellow. You can use your second Prowler on the marked enemy behind yellow, or to clear sight before planting. On defense A, start with your Haunt on pipe. You can use your C's here to tether enemies attempting to pick up orb, and even combine it with a Prowler to go for a pick. Just be aware you could be swinging into multiple attackers, so might want to do this with a flash. Now you have your Haunt again for the retake and a second Prowler to clear out angles. Mid might look something like this. Haunt lineup to spot green and mid, and when you rotate, send a Prowler down mid for a little insurance. Save your remaining abilities for the retake. Last but not least, B defense. You can start with a cheeky Haunt lineup that hits enemy spawn and a bit of mid as well. If attackers come your way, fall back to sight and use a Prowler to confirm if they pushed up or slow the push a bit. On retake, you can use the yellow lineup here and then throw your C's ball to begin your defuse attempt. Okay guys, that's going to be it for me, but if you're craving more guides, then check out this one. If you found the video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more guides like this one. What kind of guide would you like to see me cover next? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.